Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I've got another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on, to better explain what's going on, and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
Hello, I'm Deputy Chief Terrence Rose of the Dallas Police Department's Criminal Investigations Group. I will brief you on the details as we know them of the officer-involved shooting that occurred on August 20th, 2022 at 216 South Llewellyn Avenue in Dallas, Texas. This is the fifth officer-involved shooting involving a Dallas police officer in 2022. Gathered surveillance camera footage will be shown at the end of this presentation. On August 20th, 2022 at approximately 2:05 a.m., Dallas police officer Keenan Blair was working an off-duty job at 216 South Llewellyn Avenue, the 216 Lounge. Across the street from the business, 31-year-old Cesar Hernandez was involved in a negative interaction with two suspects, 30-year-old Lou Guerra and 18-year-old Edward Hernandez, who were passengers inside a dark-colored GMC pickup in the Fiesta parking lot. As the suspect's vehicle drove from the parking lot, they shot Cesar Hernandez in the stomach. Officer Blair fired 3 shots from his department-issued weapon at the suspect to protect Hernandez. Hernandez was taken to the hospital and underwent surgery for his injuries. Suspects Guerra and Edward Hernandez both arrived at a local hospital with injuries that were consistent with bullet fragments, grazing, and glass shards. Guerra and Hernandez were treated and released from the hospital and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Officer Blair did not sustain any injuries during this incident. The investigation determined there were more than 20 rounds fired from the truck as they left the parking lot and sped down Llewellyn, firing back toward the crowd. A black sedan was also observed leaving the parking lot in the opposite direction. A passenger fired at least 5 rounds into the air. Another Dallas police officer who was also working off duty at the location did not discharge his weapon. A security guard who was working at the location discharged a shotgun into the air. He stated it was to disperse the crowd. Surveillance video shows the security guard shooting in the air and did not appear to strike anyone. There were no other injuries reported at this time. Neither officer had their body on camera at their off-duty job. Dallas Police Special Investigations Unit responded and continues to investigate the incident. The Dallas County District Attorney's Office responded and is conducting an independent investigation. The Office of Community Police Oversight was notified and responded to the scene.
All right.
Their body on duty job.
So there's a bunch of different stuff going on here that can play into kind of a long rant almost that I could go into. One thing to point out is, I went too far back. Well, all right. This dude, 18 years old. What the fuck's he doing at a bar at 18 years old? So that I'll get into the management of the crowds for bars and nightclubs here in a little bit. But this right here, that signifies a problem to me. What kind of processes are in place to prevent someone this young from going into an establishment that should be 21 only? Now, with that being said, I don't know 100% sure if this establishment is for 21 only. It could be an establishment that serves food, and so it's a restaurant, but also a bar, and so they're allowed to do a loophole in a sense and allow under 21 to come in because it's a restaurant. That could be the case. I don't know. But anyway, I'll kind of get into this here a little bit later. The layout for this place. So this place is called 216 Lounge. And I have not done a whole lot of searching on it, but I did do one quick little look for it, and I found a news posting from this news article. I think it's called like Oak Cliff something or Oak Leaf something, and they were posting an article about this incident. And one of the people in the comment section, the comment section for news pages are interesting places, but one person commented, is this place still open? And then another person replied to it something like, right, that's what I'm thinking. And then another person had made some kind of comment about the location, and someone replied to it that it's good they're still open, because that basically, not word for word what they said, but basically they said it's good for this place to be open because that's a place to be able to keep all the knuckleheads at. So based on those comments alone, and from what I've seen in the footage, this place kind of makes me think it's one of those less than desirable places where a bunch of stupid shit goes on at. And the makeup of it, the layout here, which I'll get into later, can make this more difficult to manage large crowds, because you see this is the location right here, and they have street side parking, and then here's a parking lot to presumably another whole nother business over here that where all their crowds are going to be going to, where they're going to be parking at. So I'll get into those nuances a little bit later, but this is one of the things that can be difficult in managing bar and nightclub properties. The two officers working off duty are Dallas police officers. Now, the details of how they're working off duty, I don't know. Each agency is a little bit different in regards to how and how they do or allow off-duty work. So governmental agencies out there, a lot of them have what they call outside employment policies, and the policies outline that if you want to have secondary employment outside of your normal governmental job, you have to disclose that to your supervisor and get permission from your agency head or from the personnel board or whoever, and being able to seek out and retain that outside employment. And they may offer reasons behind this, as some positions in your governmental role, or you as a governmental worker, some outside employment jobs you get could be a conflict of interest for that governmental role, and they may say that those outside employment roles can affect your work schedule. And really, when it comes to that, what they're saying is that could impact their ability to call you into work for overtime, or to have to work overtime. So if you're working a secondary job somewhere, you're a referee at a baseball game or something like that, on your off day, and someone calls in to work and they want to call people and say, hey, come in, you need to come in for overtime. Well, if you're working that secondary job, you can't come in. So that's ultimately why these agencies have that policy in place, to prevent people from basically taking on jobs that would interfere with the agency's ability to call them in for overtime. The whole conflict of interest thing could come into play in some things, but for overall, it's a sham. The basic thing is these agencies are they want slaves, is really what that boils down to. They want slaves instead of employees. They want you to be able to come in to work any damn time they want you to, and they don't want any type of interference in that. So that's why those outside employment policies exist. Now, like I said, that's different all across the board. Some places they may have a policy like that in place, but they don't follow it. They don't give a shit about it. Some places will follow that policy to a T. Other places, there may not be any policies like that at all in existence, because they're cool people and they understand that there has to be a balance between work and personal life, and they understand that you're not a slave. When it comes to peace officers working in off-duty capacities in security, some agencies may allow that and some may not. So there may be some agencies who say, yeah, you can have a second job, but it can't be security. You can be a referee at, for ball games. You can serve tables at a restaurant. You can do real estate. Real estate's kind of like one of those fucking jobs that a lot of cops fall into. You could be a makeup salesperson, whatever. You just can't do security. And then there's some agencies that say, yeah, you can do security. When it comes to those agencies who say, yeah, you can do security, they may impose certain restrictions. For example, you can work security, but you cannot work security in a place that serves alcohol or there is gambling that goes on. So if you want to work security at a church, a shopping mall, daycare center, whatever, you're fine, just so long as it's not a place that serves alcohol or has gambling or is a strip club where people get naked. There may be restrictions on what equipment they can use that is owned by the agency. So they may say you can use the duty belt and everything on it, but you cannot wear the badge or the patch. And there's some that say you can wear everything and use everything, and then there's some that will say that you can't wear or use anything. You can't even use the fucking flashlight. Like, that's city-owned equipment, county-owned, state-owned, whatever. It's governmental equipment. You can't use it in a off-duty capacity to make a profit off of it. You can only use it while you're working. So there's, from East Coast, West Coast, there's just varying degrees of rules and stuff like that on how police officers do off-duty security. Now, this particular location, Dallas, I have no idea what their policies are. Obviously, he's using his gun, his agency-issued gun. Now, that may be something that they allow to go on. It may be something that they don't allow to go on, and he's just been doing it and getting away with it because no one's known about it. I have no idea. No clue whatsoever. When it comes to the bars and nightclubs, some of these places do like to hire off-duty police to work security because they want police there, because they do have those police powers at all times to be able to do stuff and enforce things. And they want to have that due diligence and kind of having a, maintained crowd. And then there's other places that simply just do not want police there because they are involved in illegal shit, and they know if the police is there, that's going to get them caught up. So, yeah. All right, so we'll get into the video part, and then I'll talk a little bit more, so that way you don't get too bored. Back that up some so you can see that truck. It's being highlighted to the left there. Someone's hanging out the passenger side doing the shooting, and then that car right there doing shooting as well. And you can't really see from this one where the victim is because this light post, he's right practically behind it, so you don't get to see him. Now what you see here is the victim. He's highlighted here, and also in the background is the security officer with the shotgun. In all this footage, we don't get to see the police officers. I don't even know exactly where they're at. I wish they would have shown in the overhead photo where they would have been at in relation to the shooting, but they don't. Which is typical in some of these kind of videos. The agencies don't provide a whole lot of details. So he's talking to some people. Looks like this might be a friend or something. Security officer comes over and does something. I think what's going on here is the officer notices that he's got like a beer bottle or something like that, or a can, because that's what it looks like. And this is pretty typical of bars and nightclubs. People bringing their drinks from outside. So this is something that is normal. So That's what I think it is. I don't know what else it could be other than an alcohol container being taken outside the bar. And then he basically goes out of camera view to where you can't see him anymore. And, excuse me, based off the camera footage that is available, it just doesn't look like him being shot is actually captured on film. The other camera view, the lamppost there, completely blocks everything. So now you'll have to pay attention to the security officer who is over here. You can tell by his reaction, gunfire occurs. Now I'll back it up. So he's over there, he's walking away. Here's security officer there. What exactly he's doing, I'm not 100% sure because it is blurred out at this point. He tells him to, well, I don't know what he tells him, but he takes that thing from that guy. Looks like he goes and throws it away. And in the blurred here, you see this guy walking. Here in the blurred spot, you see security walk over here. He's standing to the front of this vehicle. Looks like he's standing. This guy goes over here. He's still standing. And then I don't know if he's leaning, like just relaxing at this point, what he's doing, or if he's trying to look at people. Like you can see that there's a tree right here with branches. He might be ducking down to kind of see under that to see what's going over here, or he might notice something over here going on and he's kind of ducking down. I don't know exactly what it is that he's doing. He could just be leaning forward, resting. And then boom, you see him instantly drop. So that's when we know shots are fired. He starts to come here, and we see the shotgun come up. We don't see a flash, or at least I don't see a flash. You see what looks like smoke coming out the barrel right there. So he fires, he ducks, here's a car running. He recognizes it and he moves to utilize the vehicle for better cover, but he does not engage them in any way. So, shooting a shotgun to disperse the crowd. I don't think that's the greatest thing to be doing. And not just from the mindset of, oh, the bullet has to come back down somewhere. Or in this case, the shot comes back down somewhere. Not in that sense. I just don't see a sense in doing that. I don't think it's necessary to be shooting into the air to make people scatter. If the other rounds that had been fired, now mind you, that one vehicle, they determined that like 20 something rounds have been fired. If these motherfuckers are not dispersing with that amount of rounds being fired, I don't think that one shotgun blast is going to cause the rest of them to disperse. So him firing his shotgun into the air to disperse the crowd, I think, was kind of fucking stupid. Was that fully 100% intentional? Maybe. It was. It could have also been an unintentional discharge. He could have been trying to go around the vehicle and he just fired a round off. I mean, in my mind, if I'm going to fire my weapon to disperse people or give a warning shot, I would envision firing as vertical as possible, straight up as imaginable. He does not appear to do that. He has the muzzle more I guess you could say slanted. It's not exactly vertical. It's not exactly horizontal. It's kind of somewhere in the middle, and that leaves the ability for the trajectory of that shot to potentially, come and land at a different angle with some kind of force. Whereas if you fire directly up, eventually it's going to lose its power and it's just going to fall back to Earth, like any other object. And you can drop those objects from a height and it's not going to kill you. You'll feel it, but it's not going to be the same as if it got fired out of the barrel. It comes out of the barrel at a certain speed, gravity slows that down, and then brings it back to Earth at its speed that it brings stuff down, terminal velocity. Him utilizing cover, so in this urban environment, this is the only form of cover to be able to utilize. He is staying in and around the engine block area. When it comes to a vehicle, and its position, the way it is, him being here, threats being over there, that is probably the most ideal place to be, is behind this wheel and engine block area. That's going to provide the most amount of material to potentially stop rounds from getting to you. Other than that, the rest of this vehicle, you do not want to be behind. Rounds will go straight through doors. Even a 22 long rifle will very easily go through the driver's side passenger door and potentially even through the passenger side door, depending on where it hits in the door. 9mm for sure is going through both doors. Rifle rounds are for sure going through both doors. Even the rear, panel back here, it'll go through this panel, through the cargo space of the SUV, and then out the other one. No problem whatsoever. So cars are not great forms of cover. Cars are oftentimes referred to as bullet magnets. They're just not places where you want to be in a gunfight. But sometimes that's the only fucking cover you've got. There's no big-ass tree or rock or concrete thing for him to hide behind. There is a pole right there, but that pole is very small, very narrow. So this is the better form of cover for him in around this engine block area. These people are shooting out the window. One dude's hanging out the window shooting. He obviously sees it and then runs, and or not runs, but moves from this position to back to here. He could have taken that shot. Could have. And would have been completely justified in doing so. This person is, even if they had initially the right to defend themselves against this guy over here, which is obviously, I don't believe, the case at all. Even if they did, at some point, have the initial ability to have justifiable use of force against someone, justifiable use of deadly physical force against someone, that then changes when they are leaving the area, or no longer under threat, and are blindly firing into a crowd of people. They are now putting other people's lives in danger. So this is a justifiable use of deadly physical force for this security officer to utilize against these people. Now, he may have recognized the fact that there is a lot of people in this background here. We'll back it up. He may recognize that there's vehicles right here, and if he fires and he misses, he's going to be hitting them. So he may have made the decision, I cannot safely shoot at these people because, or this bad guy, because all these bad people are right, or not all these bad people, all these good people are right here. They're innocent bystanders. If one pellet misses and hits someone over here, that's a bad shoot. Now, with that being said, the background then changes. We don't see any innocents down here. He for sure can shoot at this person if they're obviously still shooting towards the crowd. And I would advocate, yeah, definitely, fucking deliver deadly force towards someone, even though they're retreating away, but they're still firing rounds at people. Yeah, for sure. Deliver deadly physical force towards them. Stop that threat. Just because they're driving away and still shooting doesn't mean they're going to be less likely to hit someone. They can still most definitely hit multiple people as they're driving away. They're still a threat. Just because they're moving away at this point doesn't make them any less of a threat if they're still shooting. So I can fully understand why he may have made that conscious decision not to shoot right in here because of knowing your target and what's behind it. But he most definitely could have at this point, with this angle, fired. Now, with that being said, this happening so quick, he may have saw this moving, knowing he can't shoot, make a good shot, especially with a shotgun. He may be thinking the type of shotgun he's got, the payload he has in it. He may not be able to get a good, accurate shot on target. And this target is now moving out. He is more exposed to this person shooting, and he needs to move to better cover. So he has gone through that OODA loop. He's observed, oriented, decided. Now he's acting. He's already made the commitment to act, to move to a better form of cover, and just does not see or recognize or realize that now this is a better firing solution. And that's, unfortunately, that's all we get to see of the shooting itself. So I like that he has a long gun out. In some bars and nightclubs, it is best to be able to deploy a long gun and walk around with that. One, as a show of force. People notice that shit. And secondly, if force is to have to be used and you're in a crowded place, etc., there's long distances involved, and it's potentially going to be a gunfight, that in of itself is justification for wanting to have a long gun involved. If you know that the conditions are right for an increased chance of a gunfight occurring, you want a long gun. You want a rifle or a shotgun. Those are going to be the best fight stoppers readily available to you. Pistols, although they are capable of incapacitating people, they're not as accurate, and they don't have the incapacitating power that a shotgun or rifle has. The kinetic energy, the terminal ballistics of a rifle cartridge versus a pistol cartridge are night and day. There are more people walking around today who've been shot with pistol, multiple times with pistol, than there are people who've been shot with rifle, or even multiple times with rifle. Yeah, there's some people walking around who've been shot with a rifle, but when you compare those people to the ones who are walking around who've been shot with pistol, there's more people who've been shot with pistol walking around than there are rifles. Rifle rounds are just devastating. They really are. And that is what you want in a gunfight. You want something that is going to get the desired result, and the desired result is incapacitating the threat as fast as possible. And you can achieve that with rifle and or shotgun. So, I guess that's it on the shooting part of it. Now we'll talk about bar, nightclub, crowd management. So when it comes to the alcohol industry, the night entertainment industry, there are various forms of that. So you may have a a bar that is just a standalone bar. That's all it is. And you got to be 21 years of age to enter that. Well, when it comes to a bar, there's different types of bars. You have country-themed bars. You got gay bars. You've got rap culture kind of bars. You've got college bars. You got techno bars, like different bars that cater to kind of different cultures or lifestyles, I guess you could say. So a country bar, like in the movie Roadhouse, the way that security is done in a place like that is going to be different than security in a gay bar. It's going to be different than security in a biker bar. It's going to be different than security that is going to be in a bar that caters to rap and hip hop crowds. Some of the things that go on are should be done all across the board at all of them, but the intensity of some things, some of the tactics and procedures that are done between those different venues, it can vary. So you got those standalone bars, and then you have bar and grill kind of places. A place that is it is a restaurant and a bar. So places like that could be like Red Lobster or Applebee's. It's a restaurant, but it also has a bar in there. Now, when it comes to those places, there's two different styles of that. Your quintessential places like Red Lobster, Applebee's, etc., they operate as a restaurant. That's what they're known for. They just so happen to have a bar inside. And typically, most people who go to those places, their motivation for going there is getting food. They want to eat. And it's just a bonus that they get to have a drink with their meal. Some of those places, like the Buffalo Wild Wings or some of the other ones, they may have a like a sports bar kind of theme to them. So it's a restaurant and a bar, but they have a bunch of TVs in there, and they're known for attracting crowds during large like football games, basketball games, etc. And so, although during the week they are known as just a normal, regular restaurant, there are certain times throughout the week and or weekends that they're really more of just a bar that happens to serve food instead of just a restaurant that just happens to serve alcohol. And then there are some places that they're a restaurant, but realistically, they're pretty much just a bar. That's all they fucking are. They're a bar that just happens to serve food, and they operate like that. They cook the books to show that, you know, or make it seem like they're selling more food than alcohol. And some states will have laws on that. So, you know, they may say that a restaurant that serves alcohol can be open on a Sunday and still serve alcohol. But if it's just a regular bar, you can't be open on a Sunday. Well, there's some places that are a restaurant on paper, but they only really do bar sales. But the law says that you have to have, you know, like 50% of your sales come from food. Well, they ain't fucking doing that. Like, they're serving more alcohol than food. They'll cook the books to show that, oh yeah, we're making more food sales than we are, you know, alcohol sales. And unless there's a proactive ABC person really fucking checking the nitty gritty of that stuff, they kind of fly on the radar and don't get audited or anything like that. And then they'll go on until they have major problems where people start looking into stuff and like, all right, what the fuck's going on here? Then they might do an audit and start looking into stuff. So, alcohol places, you got bars that are just strictly all they are is just a bar, and then you have these restaurant bars or these sports bar kind of places that are kind of like a combo of a restaurant and a bar, and the two can be very different in those regards. So with those places, the crowd management, some of them the crowd can manage themselves, like Red Lobster during the week. Like, they don't have to have security there just because they serve alcohol, because the people who come there are sensible people. Like, they're reasonable people. They can manage themselves, and they're there for food. They're not there to get fucked up. You go to Red Lobster, you know, you might be there for the all-you-can-eat shrimp, not the all-you-can-drink well liquor. So they're there for the shrimp and shit. It just so happens they get to enjoy an LIT with them. And they can manage themselves. They can control themselves, and they don't cause any problems. Now, there are some things that the restaurant itself will still do as a control factor. Licensed bartenders who know not to overserve people, etc. That's a form of crowd control, making sure you're not overserving people. Some restaurants, like Cheddar's, they have like this drink called a painkiller, and their policy on their menu says one customer cannot have more than 2 painkillers because of the amount of alcohol that's in it. So that's a form of crowd control on them. But even at Cheddar's, a place like that, again, the attractant is food. People are going there to eat, and they just happen to drink. Now, there may be, some places that are like that where people go there to pre-drink. The bar is kind of known as a fun little place, like in my town, Smoky Bones. Smoky Bones is a restaurant, but they kind of have like a bar crowd during the week at night. And so they could be more alcohol sales, on a weeknight, like on a Thursday night or something, than what they would do in food. But even then, there's still not a need for security to be at Smoky Bones on a Thursday night, because that crowd dynamic is just different. The attractant is still food. They might not be eating as much food as they are consuming alcohol, but it's still just a different dynamic, and the crowd that comes there is not the same as the crowd that goes into just a strict bar itself. So some of these places, the crowd can manage themselves, and or the venues have these small control factors in place to kind of control the crowds, whether that be a state implemented thing, like you got to have licensed bartenders, and they have maybe their own little policies in place, like you can't have more than 2 of these powerful drinks. When it comes to actual bars, even those places can vary widely on how security is implemented. It may be a small enough bar where it's an older crowd that comes in, like people in their 30s, and they don't have to hire someone to sit at the door to check IDs, because the people who come there are all fucking old. And the bartender, the bartender knows everyone, like a small bar like that, they don't need security. And oftentimes, they won't have security in those places like that. Other bars that attract mostly younger people, and lots of younger people, may employ some form of security. It may be just someone checking IDs, and that's all they need, or that's all they feel they need, because that's their biggest threat, is underage coming in, and then an underage being caught, and that being a risk to their liquor license. But they don't really have fights or big problems or anything like that. It could be a more upscale kind of place, more of a uppity, ritzy kind of place. That would have a bunch of more younger people, but maybe classier young people, I guess you could say. So they may have a lower or smaller footprint of security versus some other place. And you get into a bar or a dance club that has a bunch of young people coming into it, and a bunch of young people who have criminal backgrounds. That place may have a larger security footprint than the other places, because just the type of the crowd that is going there. The crowd is more volatile. The crowd has less impulse control, and the crowd just has more stupid motherfuckers in it, for lack of better words. The number, I say the footprint of security, so the number of security between these places can vary. Some can get away with just a couple people working. Some, they really should not have just 2 or 3 people working. Some should have just, they should have more than 2 or 3 working. The problem with that is, you can understand that mindset, that reality of, hey, there's 400 fucking people here. There does not need to be 2 security. Most reasonable people would see that and accept that and agree with it. Bar owners and managers, on the other hand, they look at profits, and they see a 400-person crowd, and they're like, well, if we get 5 security, this cuts this X amount out of our profits. We have to pay these 5 security this much money. But if we only have 2 security, we only have to pay this much. So that comes into these establishments having good owners and or managers who understand safety and security. So you can have a place that has a bunch of fucksticks that come to it, and there's a good owner and manager who understand that security is needed and safety is paramount, and they will do the things that needs to be done. And these places are relatively safer than others. Then you have places where they don't give a fuck about that. They only care about the profits. And these are the places that are known as really bad places. Now, the places that do try their best, they do try to do good stuff. Bad things can still happen there. Shit happens. But overall, when you look at, all across the board, it's the places with the shitty owners and the shitty managers who don't give a fuck. They only care about the money, where a lot more occurrences of bad things happening that goes on. When it comes to these kind of bars and stuff, how security can go about their operations and affecting better control over the crowd can have a lot to do with the property layout. So as we can see here, this bar is, let me go back to the aerial of the place. So this bar is right here. And then, what is this place? Mailbox, lock, and key. So maybe this is like a post office kind of thing. I don't know what the fuck this is. So this looks like a duplex sort of building, I guess you could say, a multi unit building. So it looks like El Globo restaurant and then 216 lounge. Or maybe that's the address, and this was... I don't know what's going on here. So this could be 2 different buildings or 2 different units in one building, or is this just one building and this is what this place used to be called? I'm not sure. But anyway, it is situated right here, and it has a sidewalk right there. Now, we do get to see what looks like an alley, sort of, and then we see what looks like more building. So no idea what's to the right here, but the front of the business is right here, and all you have is street parking right there. Across the street is a big-ass parking lot. Now, this big-ass parking lot appears to be a parking lot for something like a large shopping center. Because you can see it's one big building. Now, this could be like I don't recognize the shape of that sign. So this could be like a large department store, like a Tractor Supply kind of place, or it could be like a shopping center where it's one big building, but there's like multiple little stores along it. Whichever it is, I don't know what it is, but this is a standalone property with a building and a parking lot. So when it comes to bars that are in a property like this, where it's public street and public sidewalk, that can change things and make things a little bit different and difficult to manage the crowd, because now you're dealing with public space. Security can't tell people that they can't be standing out in the middle of the road. Security cannot be telling people they cannot be standing on the sidewalk. Even if it's right in front of the business. This is a public sidewalk. Anybody can be there. So that makes things challenging in a way. When it comes to properties like this, where the building has its own parking lot and the front door is dab smack middle over there, and they're on the sidewalk in front of that building that's on a big ass private lot, yeah, you can most definitely tell them to get the fuck out of the sidewalk. You can drag their ass and throw them in the street over here if they refuse to. That's your property. That's your playground. That is your place. And under most state laws, you can use force to remove a person from property if they're trespassing. Once a person in a place like this gets kicked out of the bar, they get kicked out of the bar, now they're on the public sidewalk, well, now they can hang out there and do all kinds of stupid shit, and the private security of the venue can't really do anything to them once they're out here in this public domain. So properties like this can be a little bit more challenging versus properties like this. I love properties like this because these are a whole lot easier to manage and get better crowd control versus ones like this. Now, you can still do things for this kind of setup. You know, you kick someone out and they're out here causing a problem. You can just flat out tell them, like, hey, man, you continue to stand out here and hoot and holler and cause a scene. We're going to ban you from coming here for a month. And if you continue on, it's going to be 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and you continue on, you'll just be completely banned here forever. Best thing you need to do is get an Uber, go home, or go down the sidewalk, go to another bar. You're just not coming into this one tonight. And then, of course, also, if you're needing to, if they're not following that, there's still being a problem, getting the local police involved, come in there to deal with them from the mindset or from the approach of them being drunk and disorderly. Being drunk in public or having disorderly conduct, or depending on how they're acting towards you, you know, they're acting menacingly towards you, making terroristic threatening, whatever. Police can come deal with them then at that point. Properties over here is a whole lot easier, like I said, to deal with. Now, some of these bars on this same setup where it's a bar on a street like this, sidewalk, and then there's some adjacent property that does not belong to them, it just has a big parking lot and people go park in it. These owners and these managers oftentimes have the mindset of, well, that's not our property, we're not concerned with it, we don't want security going over there. When in all reality, the people who are over here in this fucking parking lot were the same people who are in your bar. So in my opinion, yes, it is your problem to deal with because you attracted all these people to this area. You attracted all these people to your place. You got them liquored up. You got them drunk. And now they're going back to their cars out in this parking lot that the only reason they're there is because of you. So yes, I do believe that bars and nightclubs in this kind of setup are responsible for crowds that are within close proximity to their property, but not exactly on their property. That kind of plays into how some places become a little bit more disorderly than others, because there'll be some agencies out there who say, well, we can't, well, the way the law is worded, we can't articulate whether or not this bar here is actually a disorderly premises when all these people are over here doing stuff, because this is not bar property, this is bar property. And so they'll never cite the bar for having a disorderly premises. The workaround to that, in my opinion, is getting your city council people or county ordinance people, whatever, to draft up local ordinances to address issues like that. Put them under what would be a nuisance property ordinance, and be able to word the language in it that if it is a bar, nightclub, whatever, and there's a parking lot or a place, or there's a crowd within close proximity to it, that officers can reasonably believe that this crowd came from this place, and or, you know, there's like a city camera set up and they can see that this crowd is, the crowd that always hangs out over here after bar closing time is always known to be the crowd letting out from this bar. Like, if you can establish that beforehand, or establish it, night of, wherever, then you should be able to say, hey, this is your doing. You attracted all these people here. They're here because of your place. Even though this is not your property, you're still responsible for attracting all this shit. You are now a nuisance property. Here's your fine. If you do not take actions to fix these problems, we're going to give you another fine. And we'll keep fining you and fining you and fining you X amount of dollars until you come into compliance. So what that would do is that would force a property like this to become proactive and then go do something. Or if they can't do that, then what they could do is, sorry about your luck, hardware store, but you have a bunch of people hanging out in your parking lot at night, they cause problems, there's shootings, we're going to start giving you the fine. And then they start fining them for people hanging out in their parking lot after night. What's this store going to do? Well, they're going to say, fuck that shit. We're not responsible for these little assholes. We're going to hire private security to come patrol our parking lot at night, or we're going to park trucks in the opening right here and install a gate. That way, after hours, no one can pull in here and park at night. And so that will have a cause and effect. That will cause the crowd not to loiter over in this area and not start causing big ass problems. They'll have to walk their asses 2 fucking blocks down the street and all be spread out going back to their cars versus all their cars in one centralized little spot and then they're all congregating together. So there's some things that could be done to mitigate these issues. Some places it may be getting done, other places they just haven't thought about that, haven't figured it out, whatever. But that's something that I firmly believe that needs to be done is local governments enacting local ordinances for nuisance properties and or going to legislators and getting state laws passed that would give municipalities the ability to force people to start doing stuff, to change the dynamic so that violent shit does not keep recurring in the same spot. So like I said, in properties like this, the bars and stuff, they may say, hey, you know what, this isn't our parking lot, we don't give a fuck about it, we're not having our security go over there. When it's like that, that can become a problem. If the bar says, hey, you know, that's our crowd over there, we need to send security over there and deal with it, then that's good. They're wanting to take that proactive approach and make sure that all the customers that come to their place are safe. You know, the best thing for them to do is reach out to this, you know, company over here and be like, hey, you know, our bar, you know, at night, there's a bunch of people that park in your parking lot. We want to have our security go over there and walk around the parking lot and make sure that nothing goes on, make sure people aren't, you know, destroying stuff, doing burnouts, leaving a bunch of trash, whatever, you know, as a courtesy. You know, you're our neighbor. We want to keep up good relations. That would be a good thing to do. And it should be something to do, you know. What's the, there's like a saying, a phrase, neighbors who walk their, farmers who meet up and walk along their fence together or better neighbors or something. I can't remember how the fuck it's worded, but basically, you know, if you got good relations with your neighbors and you both work hand in hand, then good things are going to happen. Otherwise, you know, what could happen is, you know, these people over here are going to get fucking tired of bottles and shit being laid out in the parking lot, Black and Mild cigarettes and packages being thrown around everywhere, and the little empty cigarillo packets being everywhere. They may get tired of that shit and say, you know what, fuck this. We're going to have private security come in and kick everybody out, and we'll start towing vehicles at night. Well, that could then in turn cause a big impact on this business. You know, all these people are like, man, we got nowhere to park. Like, we got to park 3 blocks down just to get to this damn bar. Well, fuck this place. We'll go somewhere else. So if a bar like this doesn't keep up good relations with their neighbors, then the neighbors could do something very drastic that would cause an impact on their ability to make a profit. When it comes to properties like this over here, where you got the big building and the big parking lot and everything, this is obviously the cat's meow when it comes to managing the property and the crowd, because it's a whole lot easier to do that. It's all a self-contained kind of thing, so to speak. So with that being said, for the bars that need, lots of security, even for ones that don't need lots of security, there are some things that, some standards, I guess you could say, that are being done to make the place safe, as far as, the operations of security, the functions of what they're doing. So first and foremost is entry control. Entry control is going to be the front door where everybody comes in at. That is one task that is important, and it's probably one of the most important things in the whole security operation for a bar. Entry control is going to be where Everyone's IDs are checked to verify they're of age to be in there. This is where the door staff at the front door are going to be able to assess people physically, behaviorally as they're coming in. If they're acting aggressive and hostile outside, there's no fucking reason for them to come inside if they're acting like a dick outside. That badass attitude is just going to continue inside and make things worse. So people with bad attitudes, disrespectful as shit, don't come in. People who appear to be over intoxicated, just too damn drunk, too damn high on something, they don't need to be coming inside there. They're a risk. Clothing, so dress codes. Some places may have dress codes and whatnot. So if they're not meeting that kind of threshold, obviously they should not be coming in. People trying to come in with like big ass backpacks and stuff, like those things need to be checked. Like you shouldn't be coming in. Like, why are you bringing a backpack to a bar anyway? But bags and stuff need to be checked to make sure alcohol containers aren't being brought in, and then that increasing the risk of people being over intoxicated, weapons being brought in. In some places, it's important to do pat downs. So does a gay bar need to do pat downs? No, not really. I mean, I don't know of very many gay bars that have many acts of violence recurring. Does the old bar that all the like 30 and 40-year-olds go to, do they need to do pat downs there? No. Like, they're not having constant fucking problems like that. The bars where like all the rap and hip hop cultured people go to, do they need to do pat downs? Probably. And most of them want to do that. Because that's where you see a lot of the recurring problems at. That's where you see a lot of the shootings at. So in places like that, entry control can also be physically screening people, patting them down before they come in. And when it comes to that, I am not a believer in metal detector only searching. I think that's fucking stupid. I'm not a big fan of metal detectors at all, especially the wanding ones. It's just too many room for error there, especially when you don't do things right. So if you're going to be doing the metal detector wanding, then it needs to be done in the same way that you would do it at an airport or a courthouse. Like, everyone's pockets needs to be emptied of fucking everything that could set that thing off, put it in a basket, have them step forward, wand them down with the metal detector, wherever on their body the thing goes off at, you do an enhanced pat down within that area to see if they got it. That's how that should work. Places that just have people wand around the waistband area and that's it and let them in, that's fucking stupid. And I see that quite a bit. I've even seen that in a place here locally with a person who has been in the security industry for several years, and they just wand around the waistband area and wand them down and then let them go. They didn't even bother to wand them down in the ankle area. Like, they could have an ankle holster on or have their gun shoved down into their sock, and never would have known because they never wanded them down there. So if you're going to be using the metal detector wand, it has to be realistic. It has to be done in the way that you would see being done in a place like an airport or a courthouse. You got to have a table set up, have a few food baskets or something out there for people to throw their shit in, have them step to the side, scan them down, pat them down as needed, and then let them put their shit back in their pocket. So that then creates a need to have a structured kind of entry area. So then you have to put more stuff into play. You got to set a table up there. You got to maybe put some cones out, put some rope up to funnel the crowd. Cattle them in the way you want them to, create that entry line, and do that intake process or that screening process to get them in. Me personally, I think pat downs are the best way to go. However, the downside to pat downs is you need to have enough personnel to be able to switch those people out, because if you got someone working the door from 9 o'clock at night to 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're constantly bending over, squatting down, bending over, patting people down, that wears you out. And eventually, they start when people get physically tired, they start slacking off a little bit. So if it's going to be a pat down stuff, those people need to be switched out every 30 minutes to an hour so they don't get fatigued and start missing stuff. You also need to be sure to have a female officer working. I've seen so many places where they'll have all male security staff working. They'll pat all the guys down who come into the bar, but no one pats the women down. So who do you think these dudes are handing their drugs and guns off to? The fucking women. They might check their purse, but they're not checking their bra. They're not patting the women down. They're not seeing if they got stuff on them. So in these places, the women bring a lot of shit in. So you've got to have a good female officer there to be able to do the pat down on the women as well. Otherwise, it's negligent. Otherwise, I mean, you might as well have a screen door in a fucking submarine at that point, because anything could be coming in if you're not actually physically checking the women who are coming in. So things like that fall under entry control. And really, like I said, the biggest thing with entry control is people's attitudes. That can be the best way to have a good crowd on the inside is by checking motherfuckers at the door. Like I said, they come up with that shit-tastic attitude. They're disrespectful. They just look at you and like roll their eyes. Fuck that. Go to fuck somewhere else. With entry control, you also have exterior control and interior control. So with good entry control, you can have less people on interior control because you've basically set the mood, you've set the tone, and you've screened the people well enough that the people who are on the inside, they're people who are wanting to have fun and have good attitudes. They're not going to be that much of a problem inside. You should still have people inside checking up on people as a form of control, making sure people aren't being overly intoxicated or someone didn't actually get to sneak a bottle in or something like that, or no problems are brewing. But it's not like you're going to have like 10 people inside. If you have good entry control, you can get away with having 1 to 2 people inside or no people inside and just have people walk around inside periodically. Exterior control would be in the form of a property like this over here, where you got the big building, the big parking lot. So exterior control would be people or a person out in the parking lot making sure that people are not loitering out in the parking lot while the bar is in business. Why are you hanging out in the parking lot when the bar is open? Fucking bartenders aren't outside serving drinks. Why the fuck are you out there? The girls aren't outside dancing. Why are you out there? This ain't Walmart. This ain't Waffle House. There's no need to be hanging out in the parking lot at a bar. Get your ass inside or leave. So that's what exterior control is making sure people aren't loitering out there, because when they're loitering out there, what are they doing? They may be innocent and they may just be sitting around talking where there's no loud-ass music blasting through speakers, people catching up, stuff like that. But mostly what a lot of people are doing is they're drinking in the car. They're going out there, they got a little bottle of Crown or some Hennessy or some shit, and they're filling their little styrofoam cup up and they're sipping it out there. They may be, smoking some shit, snorting some stuff, whatever. They're doing stuff outside they shouldn't be doing. And if you police that up and give them an ultimatum of get your ass inside or leave, well, that takes away all that bullshit that goes on outside. And also, outside, there's not an attention keeper outside like there is inside. Inside, you got the music playing, you got that vibe, you got the drinks flowing, people talking, girls dancing, all that stuff that keeps people focused on what's going on. Out in the parking lot, that attractant is gone, that distraction is gone. Now their minds get to run a little bit more loosely, a little bit more freely, and now they're thinking more nefarious shit. So realistically, a good entry control and good exterior control can make for an easy interior control. If you got good people on the door, the people working the inside, they've got the easiest fucking job of the night because they ain't got to do shit at all. Realistically, the people who work the hardest should be the ones at the door. That should be where the most work occurs at. For properties like this, where it's on a public sidewalk facing, and then there's public area around, or other areas or other properties around, there still should be a form of exterior control. Like I said, building that relationship with the neighbors and going over there, policing this parking lot, making sure nothing bad's going on, and then coming back. That should still be done at the ends and stuff like that. Like this, whatever that thing was called, a package and key lock, or what the fuck it was called. Go down there, check on it, stuff like that. Make sure nothing, people aren't pissing in the foyer of the company or something like that. Like I said, keeping up good relations with the neighbors, and making sure not a bunch of stupid shit goes on. If you keep people in check, you're going to have less problems. If they know they're being watched and they know that you're going to do something about it, that keeps them at that lower tier, so to speak. That keeps them always thinking about the small stuff versus being freely able to do whatever the fuck they want and then start thinking about the big stuff. Basic predator stuff. I mean, if you ever watch Animal Planet or some show about big cats, about tigers and lions and stuff, when do they attack? They attack when no one's watching. If you ever watch a video of these parents who take their kids to the zoo, and the little kid, they stand the kid up by the little glass wall, and they have their back turned to it, and you'll see that little lion in the background, and he notices it, and he lowers down his haunches, and he starts stalking forward very slowly, and gets closer and closer, and then bam, pounces, and it fucking just assaults that damn wall, trying to go at that kid, and starts swatting its paws at the glass, trying to get to the kid. That's classic predator action right there. Predators attack when they know they're not being watched. If the kid was turned around staring at the lion the whole fucking time, that lion would not have squatted down and stalked up towards it. It just would not have done that. Same in the wild. Like the prey that's observant and looking around and notices this shit doesn't get eaten. It's only the ones who aren't paying attention that get eaten. So when you are making that overt action to go around and patrol the parking lot, get into people's shit, like, hey, stop doing that, blah, 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 yada, 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 it creates that feeling, that presence of being watched. They know they're being watched. And it can lessen the bullshit that goes on. So, this car right here, the way it's parked, that tells me that there's probably a really good chance that the security over here does not do anything to keep the crowd in check over here. Like, why in the fuck is this car parked like that? Hell no. If they had been doing what they're supposed to be doing, the car would never have been parked like that. Anyway, I digress. So exterior control, entry control, and interior control. Good exterior and entry can make interior very easy. It can lessen the amount of issues that could be occurring at that property. So those are some things that can be done in the bar and nightclub industry to make things safer. But it really boils down to one, the owners or managers of that bar and what their intent is, if they give a fuck or not, and the security that they're employing and the number of security that they're employing. So my company, I got a contract, this has been a few years back, I got a contract at a place called it was a hookah lounge. And you think hookah lounge, you're like, why does a hookah lounge need security? A bunch of nerdy people in there smoking hookah. This hookah lounge was a unique place, and on the weekends, it was more of a rap hip-hop nightclub kind of place. that just so happened to serve hookah. It was a bar, by the way. They served alcohol. But on the weekends, it became like I said, a rap and hip hop bar. And in our town, at that time, that was the only place that was in operation for rap and hip hop crowd. Before that, there was a place called Chocolate City. And Chocolate City got shut down because of all the fucking problems that had been going on there. There were people fucking beaten, robbed, fucking shot, stabbed, beat to death over there. Like a bad fucking place. And that place, the owners seemingly did not give a shit about, safety. It was a very wild place. Like I said, a lot of bad things happened over there. One guy was literally beat to death. Like they beat this dude to death. I mean, it's one thing to like hear about someone being stabbed to death or shot to death. Like you could understand that like that could happen quickly, like you could shoot a person once and they could die. You could stab a person once and they could die. To punch a person one time, that typically does not kill people unless they fall and hit their head on something. Otherwise, you have to punch them repeatedly in the face multiple fucking times or stomp them in the head multiple times in order to cause enough serious physical injury for them to die from it. So, for someone to be beat to death, like that's a lot of action being involved there. So anyway, dude was beat to death there. And that place ended up closing. And this place attracted, like I said, it was the rap and hip hop crowd. And so it attracted a lot of people who liked that kind of music. And a lot of people who went there, lots of drug dealers and gang members went there. There was another place called Lava Lounge. And same kind of venue. And they ended up having a shooting. Little street thug ended up shooting at some college, I can't remember if they were basketball players or football players, sports players for the college. A little street thug ended up shooting at him. I think he hit one of them. That place ended up being shut down. So there was a period of time where there was no bar for the rap and hip hop crowd. And then this little hookah place started up, and a DJ who did rap and hip hop started coming there and started trying to put on things to, have a big crowd like that there. Well, eventually, that crowd came there. So before that crowd came there en masse, like I said, I got contracted there to have their security there. And the crowd that started coming there was the same crowd that went to that Chocolate City place and went to that Lava Lounge place. Lots of people who are, persistent felony offenders, lots of drug dealers and gang members and shit. They were coming there to that hookah place. And the hookah place was a property like this over here. It was a building with its own parking lot. And it was easier to manage from that aspect. The exterior control. So no one was allowed to loiter out in the parking lot like that. And that was a shock to that crowd because they've been so used to just like hanging out in the bars at the other fucking places, no one giving a shit. And that was really where a lot of the bad attitudes were spotted at, was when going out in the parking lot like, hey, can't be out here, you gotta be inside. That's where a lot of people showed their ass. And once you fucking get disrespectful like that and you show your ass, and you show you're being a little dick, your night's fucking over. So a lot of people showed their ass out in the parking lot, and then when they get to the front door, a lot of them would be told to leave, and they would. The ones that stayed and then tried to go to the door, they wouldn't be let in. So, like I said, a lot of the people with the bad attitudes, just shitty fucking attitudes, just grouchy ass motherfuckers, they were identified at the outside during the parking lot phase. The rest of them, got outed when they got to the front door, and were being told to they got to be patted down and checking the IDs and stuff like that, or they got a little airport bottle of liquor in their pocket, or they got a bag of weed or whatever. You take it from them, and they start getting a shitty attitude. That alone, from the exterior control and the entry control, that cut down on a lot of bad actors. Now, there were still drug dealers and gang members walking in through the front door, getting inside the place. They just knew better to cop a shitty ass fucking attitude, or display a shitty ass attitude. So this venue, it became by default the only place in town for rap and hip hop, and there were zero acts of major violence on that property while we were there. There were no fucking shootings. There were no stabbings. There were no people being beat to death. None of that shit. And I firmly believe it's all contributed to how operations were conducted there, with the exterior control and the entry control. Identifying the people with the shitty ass attitudes who they have no business being out and drinking. Like, there are some people that you may know, like, better than to taking them out into public with you and go drink at a bar. Like, once they get some alcohol in them, they're a fucking asshole. And those are those people that we identified and got rid of. Told them to go away for the night, go away for the weekend, go away for a couple of weekends, come back. And that's another thing with the management of the crowd, issuing bans. So you can tell a person not to come back for a weekend, tell them not to come back for a month. That can have a role in modifying people's behaviors. Once you start putting them in timeout, well, that sucks for them because they can't go play with their friends. And that aspect of it really works when the location you're at is the happening place. So for this location that I was at, like I said, that was the only rap and hip hop place in town. There was no other fucking bar that catered to this crowd. So if a motherfucker got an attitude and I told him he couldn't come back for 2 weekends, well, he felt that shit for those 2 weekends because all his friends were at the only fucking place that they could go party at and have fun. They had to stay their ass at home or go drink at the bowling alley. So being able to modify their behaviors that way really works. But like I said, it has to be, like, your place has to be a fun place. It has to be an attractant. Like, you can't just ban someone for a month and then there's like 2 other like really great fun places for them to go to, because it's not going to matter to them that much. It can still lead towards being able to control or modify their behaviors, but it's just not as great as effect as if you're the happening place. So there is that location, like I said, that had that same crowd that those other places that they all went to had shootings and stabbings and beatings and big acts of violence. That same crowd at this place that I was at, zero bullshit going on. Backing it up by several years, there was a place in our town that was called Good Times. And it was a bar that catered to rap and hip hop on the weekends. And the same crowd, like I said, the same crowd. You got drug dealers and gangbangers and shit like that coming to that place on the weekend. Now, it wasn't exclusively all them. It was also, college students and stuff like that coming in that place. But a lot of that same crowd coming in that place were also that same crowd that was going to that other location that was across the tracks. And at that time, it was called something else. Called Envy or something like that. The same location as that Chocolate City place. And same kind of thing in that place. It had good entry control. People were patted down. People's attitudes were checked at the door. Like, people came to the door with a shitty ass attitude. They were told to fuck off. The parking lot was controlled. People weren't allowed to go hang out in the parking lot and do whatever the fuck they wanted to. And what I said earlier, it boils down to the managers and the owners, what their intents, what they want. Do they want to do stuff the right way or the bad way? So that place, although it had all these bad actors coming to it, there were no bad acts to happen on that property because everything that was needing to be done was being done. You had good owner and manager wanting things done right and good security that was doing things right. And that place, to my knowledge, it never had any shootings or stabbings or anything like that. Like, it was, there were fist fights and stuff, but nothing like it, across the tracks at another place where bad shit happened at. And it all boils down to good owners or managers and good security doing the right things, being proactive, and striving to create a safe environment. When you compare that to other places where the owners don't give a shit, they only care about the profit, they let illegal stuff go on, those are the places where you end up seeing a lot of the problems at. So, I think that's went into kind of a long rant about our talk about managing of the nightclub entertainment. I think I'll leave it at that. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.